Okay, don't bench with your shoulders. What on earth are we talking about? Because obviously you bench with your shoulders. We're really talking about two things here. There are two errors. There's kind of the first error, the foundational error, so we need to be aware of that. But then specifically there's a second error, and that's actually going to be the focus of what we're talking about in this video. For starters, error number one, you don't want your shoulders forward. You don't want your shoulders protracted when you bench. You want your shoulders retracted, pulled back, specifically pulled back and down. So you notice how I'm kind of lifting my chest when I'm doing that. You don't want them pulled back and then kind of shrugging like you're not really sure. Am I benching? Am I not benching? Right? So that's the first thing. You want your shoulders pulled back, retracted when you're performing the bench press. So you don't want to just lay on the bench like you're a dead floppy fish. Sorry, I don't have a better animal analogy for this, but you want to think about it as almost like you're having as short of arms as possible, pulling them back, having as short of arms as possible, while still at the same time having straight arms. That's a reasonable way to approach it. In that sense, it's almost like you don't want to have shoulders. That's how much you want to pull them back. That's how much you want to have them retracted, right? It gives you a wider base of support on the bench. So it puts your shoulders in a stronger, safer position, and it gives you a more stable platform from which to bench. If I've got my shoulders protracted like this, you can see I've got this kind of rounded surface back there on which I'm benching. You want them pulled back and down. It gives you a much more stable surface from which to bench. So that's error number one, not having your shoulders pulled back in the first place. However, error number two, a lot of people lose this retraction when they lock out a rep. In other words, when they finish a rep at the top of the movement. And usually this simply comes down to not focusing on what's going on when you finish the rep. Now, on one hand, I get it. It's easy to overdo it at the top of the rep, right? It's the strongest portion of the rep, so it's a little bit easy to be aggressive and kind of overdo it. It's a lot like coming up on your toes when you're finishing a squat, right? You finish out the top portion of the squat. It's the easiest, the strongest portion of the movement, so you kind of accidentally come up on your toes because you're a little bit over aggressive locking out on your squat. It's still dumb. We still don't want to do it, but you can kind of see how this compares to the squat. So it's still a silly thing. The problem is with the squat, gravity will bring you back down to flat feet, right? So either way, you don't want to do it, but at least in the squat, gravity kind of solves the problem for you. In the bench press, gravity does not solve this problem for you. You have to pull your shoulders back against the friction of the bench, which takes extra energy, extra time, extra effort, all of which could be more productively used to simply bench the next rep. So let's try to prevent it in the first place. With that in mind, cue number one is simply to finish under control or finish deliberately. So as you're locking out the rep, you want to make sure that you're not finishing out, locking out that rep so aggressively that your shoulders are kind of popping off of the bench. Remind yourself to finish under control with enough speed, yes, to lock it out, but not so much speed, so much momentum that your shoulders pop off the bench. So simply tell yourself to finish under control or finish deliberately. Cue number two, and this is where the whole kind of don't bench with your shoulders part comes from, because again, of course, it's an over cue, right? We do bench with our shoulders. But this cue, as far as I know, comes from Michael Wolff, and this is the idea of don't bench with your shoulders, or more specifically, bench only with your elbows. So as you're locking out the bench press, think of only moving your elbows. So your shoulders aren't also coming forward at the top, but instead your elbows are the only thing moving. Now, in reality, your shoulders are moving, but they're certainly not moving forward. So you can simply cue yourself to bench only with your elbows or lock it out only with your elbows. Again, definitely an over cue, but sometimes a very useful one. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better.